Hi everyone, what you see is what you get. A very gorgeous case coming from Montech known as the King 45 Pro. Now, first of all, I'd like to apologize to Montech as this case is launched yesterday, not today. And careless me based on the fact that the more I built in this case and the custom theme that I've actually done on the LCD screen just for this case, I have removed the whole footage. So I got to redo the whole set and to deep dive in more details. So with this said, right, let's begin. Thanks to Montech to have provided this case for me to share with everyone. The Montech King 45 comes in two different colors, which is in black or in white, and both this color have two different variants, which is the King 45 Pro, which I'm having right now, or the King 45. What's the difference? With the Pro version, it comes with 4 pre-installed 120mm ARGB fans, where the bottom fans are reverse blade and the rear is of normal blade. And all these are the improved version of the AX and the RX 120. Now, if you purchase the non-Pro version that does not come with the fans, you will need to purchase the fans yourself. But if you intend to get the fans, you can. These are the improved version single pack of the AX 120 Pro and the RX 120 Pro. This is the reverse blade. These are the single pack, or you can purchase the triple pack. Again, the AX 120 Pro and the reverse blade RX 120 Pro. Now, as for the MSRP of this case, if you choose to purchase the Pro version, it's stated as 119.90 cents, which convert round off $120 USD. If you purchase the non-Pro version, it's at 99.90 cents, which round off $100 USD. Now, this is a mid-tower chassis with a fish tank style. It's of dual chamber, but one thing I like about this dual chamber, it is slim, not so wide. Now, as for the design, I love this side a lot. You're provided with a very large tempered glass for you to see through your components. See, it's so wide. Nicely done. And kudos to Montech. You've listened to your viewers. This is not tinted too dark. In fact, it's only lightly tinted. You can see the components of what you have mounted in this case. Well done. And best part is that why do I like it so much? Based on the fact that the bottom section, this is very slim. And the gap here, right, the underskirt, it's like hovering to the ground. Now you might be wondering, hey, the fans that draw air right from the bottom, will this be not enough gap for it to draw air? Well, the thing is that it doesn't draw air from here. Only minimum air is drawn through through this side. I'll talk about it later. Now at the front, tempered glass again, and it's only this section. Whereas this whole panel over here, this is plastic, but with a brushed aluminum pattern and with a touch of ARGB strip. And right at the bottom, this is the I/O panel where you have the power switch, the LED switch which control the ARGB, or you can convert this to a reset switch. Now, if you want to use this as a reset switch, you have to forego the RGB switch, right, button, I would say. So it's either one way, reset or to control the ARGB, followed by a headphone and combo jack, 2 USB type A port and a type C port. Over at this section, the whole panel is metal, where you have ventilated areas over here. It's pretty large, where it draws cool air in or to dissipate all the warm air out. Now, as mentioned to you earlier, the bottom fans are not drawing air through this gap. Instead, it's drawing air through this gap. See how big this gap is? And right at the bottom, there is a dust filter. Speaking about the dust filter, right, now, probably Montech have to rethink about how they design the dust filter, because to remove all the dust filter, you have to pull this latch. Okay, assuming this is actually mounted with all your components and such. If I'm going to release the latch down here, right, I can't pull it out. I have to angle it. Okay, probably you can angle it and to pull it out. Okay, it seems like a difficult task. So you will have to lift up one side of your case and to pull this out. And to wash this, once this is dry, lift up the case again and to put it back. Now the reason for me to request Montech to rethink about it, because imagine that this is full of component and you have your glass over here and glass over here. By tilting the case right sideways, right, and just to pull the dust filter, right, what if the catch on the glass panel is not, it's not firm? You might just drop off and that will cause problems. So it will be best that they will design this to pull it out instead of lifting the whole case and to pull this out. So this is one of the concerns. Now, at the rear, a very large area with tons of ventilated areas. See? And these are all squares. They've changed the pattern. In fact, this is a better pattern compared to the honeycomb. And right at the top left, this is the AC socket, whereby it has an extension to plug your PSU. Now this is the PSU area, right, which I'll show you later. Instead of the bottom, it's at the top. So by extending this cable to here, right, this is where you plug your AC cable that is connected to your AC outlet. Now, I would prefer this socket to be at the bottom rather than to be at the top. Reason being, right, once you plug the cable in, right, your cables will be dangling. True enough, there are cable points over here. You will need to tuck it and to do cable tie, but you're still leaving some cables over here. Not so bad. Something, I mean, this is actually a compromise to me. So I would prefer this socket to be at the bottom, so it's just straight, at the bottom, instead of having to plug at the top and to cable tie it. Now next will be the IO cutout for your motherboard. Kudos to Montech. I glide my fingers, I won't get cut. These are the attention of details that I appreciate. Next, 7 expansion slot, all with ventilated square holes. And right at the top over here, this is where the exhaust fan is. Now you might be thinking, hey Quill, how come the exhaust fan is like way down, leaving such a big gap at the top? Well, Montech have deliberately done this kind of design based on the fact that they allow you to mount liquid AIO with thicker radiator or with custom water loop radiator at a thicker height. So that's the reason why they push down the fan area to this section. See this section over here. Now having to say this, right now pre-installed, since this is a Pro version, is a 120mm fan. You can change this out and to plug a 140mm fan. Now the 7 expansion slot, one thing good about this is the locking mechanism. There are 2 channel, or should I say 2 secure point. The first secure point, okay, first of all, remove this bracket by this thumb screw. First secure point are through the screws that hold on to your either your graphic card or any PCIe card. Second secure point, lock this. So having 2 secure point, right, your card will be very sturdy, mounted to the slot and to plug to your case. I believe that will, less of the sag on your graphic card and such. And when I push the panel itself, right, yes, it does flex a bit, but it is still rigid based on the fact that these are all ventilated holes. Do remember that. But the flex is not like some cheapo case, right, whereby I can just push the whole thing and just bend in. So this is quite rigid. Now to remove off the panel, I will start off with the top. It's toolless with all the removal of panel, which I'm going to show you. At the top, you just push it. Same to the front, push it. And you can just remove off. And holding on to the top, right, is by this pick over here. So make sure that you align. Okay, hope I don't drop this. to this slot over here. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, speaking of all this, right, do note this is longer than the back. So when you port this back, right, make sure that the longer side, this is the shorter end, this is the longer end. The longer is facing towards the front. Then you port it back. If you do it incorrectly, right, which is this way, see what happened. Yeah, you can fit. This is protruding out, and your front is not covering. So do note on this. Now, besides this, right, before I remove the side panel, just to show you the top, see, dual channel. This is where the PSU mounted, and this is the extension cable that I'm talking about, which extend to the back. So this is how it looks like, the 120mm slot and the 140mm slot. Now, to remove off the side panel, I'm having difficulties to actually remove off, even there's a stick over here to do it this way. Okay, it seems like it doesn't have the strength. So what I'll do is, I'll place my thumb over here, this at the top, and supporting the front, pull. Because if you do this motion, right, the whole thing will pull out. Else, if you are doing this, right, you don't have a good grip. See, I have a grip to pull this out, but I can't pull the front. So I gotta do this. Now when you pull out the panel, right, though this is, you know, stationary as like, you just catch to it, but I'll still advise to support it, then lift it up. And to place this panel back, right at the bottom, you have this. Place this to the frame. Once you've aligned it right, when you hold right, you can just place it back. It's quite simple. And again, this is toolless. Now as for the front, again, there are no gap for me to hold on to the top or whatsoever. Again, I'll do the style as tonight. This right hand, thumb at the curved side, holding at the top. This support the other side, pull. Okay, it's very tight. Done. So again, this is actually captive there, but make sure you support it and remove. To put it back, again, see this slot, just slot to the frame over here, and to put it back. Now, one thing I like how they design the frame itself, where you have the PSU area over here, right? This whole block, in fact, it reinforced the whole structure. That's why I say this is of a short distance. Imagine that this goes all the way here, right? When I press this, right, this will just go down. So that's why I say that it's a brilliant idea what they have done. This occupied 1/3 of the case, you know, leaving only a 2/3, which pretty sturdy. Well done. Now coming to the back, same thing. This is where you should pull. Again, okay, right now over here, right, I'm able to catch over here, so not a problem. So I can just put my fingers at this notch and to pull. See? And this taken off, and it will show the cable management area. Now to put this back, same thing. There's a whole slot over here. Catch it to the frame at the bottom and port it back, and this is done. Okay, let me just pull this out. Alright, for the measurement of this case, starting off with the side, from the front all the way to the back is 450mm. From the top to the feet is at 475mm. And as for the width from the front, from here to here, is 245mm. I also like to mention about the ventilator areas. All these are very uniform. See, this is the back panel where you have all the ventilated holes which are in square, and at the top same thing, all these are square inclusive of the rear. See, now besides this, I like how they make the area for the fans. At the top, very spacious, it doesn't have any slits or such, so this will push off tons of warm air. And at the bottom, see, again, it's, you know, it's not like with honeycomb or such, it's a wide area, so more air will go in. Well done. The interior have plenty of space for you to work with. There are total of 6 cutout points, 3 at the top, whereby you pass your 8-pin EPS cable over here, or your Liquid AIO fan cables to this section. And at the side, this is the whole PSU strap, whereby there's a hole over here, so you pass through your 24-pin cable to plug your motherboard 24-pin socket. And right at the bottom, 2 very large cutout. And this case does cater for BTF motherboard, be it ATX or MATX. Now, for the normal board arrangement, it only allows you to mount a ATX all the way to ITX. Kindly do not mount an EATX. If you mount that right, you will hit the PSU strap. Now, one thing good about this, they have this anti-sag bracket for your GPU. And to fasten this, to tighten this right, it's right at the back. Let me show you. See, with this thumb screw. So when you tighten this right, it will lock in place. Now besides this right, this anti-sag bracket, see, you can swivel to the left or to the right, and to make use of this thumb screw to lock it. See, it's pretty sturdy. Now for the fan arrangement, at the top you'll be able to mount 320mm fans or 240mm fans. At the bottom, 320mm fans or 240mm fans. At the rear, 120 or 140mm fan. For radiator placement, it's only the top and the rear. For the top, you can mount 120, 240, 360 and even a 280. At the rear, you'll be able to mount a 120 or a 140. This case is awesome to work with. Though it's a mid tower, it has a small footprint, but plenty of space for you to tuck all your components in without having any obstacle. In the past, Montech have created the HS02 and HS01 case, whereby tons of builders right have mentioned that when they place a Liquid AIO at the top, they are having struggle to tuck their cables in. And it happened that this King 45 Pro, or King 45 I should say, has a same design whereby the PSU strap is at the side over here. So they've been mentioning that for those two cases right, when you mount the Liquid AIO at the top, you will need to fiddle and it will be a tight fit for you to plug your cables and such. But for this case, no, they have catered the space sufficient for you. Now do note that right now at the top, this is not a 360 rack. 360 width should be around here, so leaving you plenty of gap for you to tuck your cables and such. This is a 280 liquid freezer 2. Yep, that's right, 140mm, and you still have gap. And best part is that you know Arctic has a very thick radiator together with fan. This is 63mm. I can even do a push-pull configuration on a 280 and having the max height of 88mm. Why? Well, brilliant design from Montech. I mounted my motherboard in. This motherboard is recessed in. Take a look at here. The PSU strap from the bottom to the top is 50mm in height. So when I plug this in right, it sits in to the 50mm space. Where if you worry that your motherboard has a tall VRM of let's say 50mm and such right, you don't have to worry at all. Or even a side VRM, or even a high profile ramps. As these are my high profile ramps, which is at 45mm, it did not exceed the 50mm mark. So when I flush the PSU right towards my ramps, see, okay, probably I'll just do it here. It did not touch my ramps at all. So with this say right, when you place a 280 at the top, which is not touching the shroud, okay, and my ramps are not hitting the shroud, so of course you can fit a push-pull configuration, no problem. And without this saying 360, easy peasy, not a problem. You can even exceed it. And if you worry that, oh, having a push-pull configuration, right, having a 88mm thickness, right, will you hit the rear fan? Not at all. As mentioned to you, there's a gap over here. So from the top to here, right, is 80mm. If you do a push-pull configuration with a liquid freezer tool, yes, it exceeds, which is 88mm. But look at the fan mounting. This is 120. Okay, if 140, right, slightly up, it's still not hitting. Okay, so that's the reason why Montech has deliberately lowered down the section for your 120 and 140mm fan, because this case is catered for push-pull configuration, not an issue. But one thing you need to take note, if you do push-pull configuration, make sure you plug in your 8-pin EPS cable, just in case you got fat fingers. Now, do note, even if you have to push this back, you got plenty of space, right? The gap. Okay, this is actually plenty of space. Yes, you can tuck in, but it will be tight. So make sure you plug in first. Okay, or you can push your 280 red towards the front, plug it first before you put it back. This is my piece of advice. Now, another point is that this is my graphic card, which is the 4080 Tough, having a length of 360. And on paper spec, you can go beyond 430, which is max is at 435. I would say keep it at 425, not 35. Alright? So that you can fit your card in. And as for the height of your GPU, right, I would advise not to exceed 160. Now this is 150. And the gap between your 12-volt high power socket to the side panel, right, this leaving a gap of 35mm. So I would say that having a height of 150 or 160 will do. That will give you plenty of space for you to bend your 12-volt high power. Okay, take note on this. Now besides this, right, as I mentioned to you earlier, the okay, you can see over here the anti-sag bracket, it's hovering well, as in like it holds this card very well. See, it's pretty sturdy, and best part on the swivel point is away from the fan, which is good. Well done. Now, some trick, probably over here you might find that it's empty, right? Just my suggestion, if Montech can actually do a, you know, LCD panel, it will be so cool, right? Now, by the way, this is a 5-inch. If you want to, you can plug, or even a 5.2-inch, and I think you can go 7-inch. Yeah, probably. Anyway, just to tell you that you can place a LCD over here, because it doesn't block any view, which is a nice touch. If you are placing an air cooler, make sure that the height does not exceed 180. I would advise you to set it to 175. Reason being, right, having a massive air cooler, what if your rear VRM heatsink hits the fans of your air cooler? Then you will need to shift your fans up. By shifting up, right, having a tall, the air cooler at 180, right, if you do push the fans up, you will exceed 180. So best to keep it at 175. So at 175, right, you still have some allowance for your fans to move up. Just to illustrate to you how sturdy the anti-sag bracket is. Now this is my level meter, which the meter is, the bubble is at the center. So I place it at the top. You can have a look. Now probably I'll zoom in See? So no matter where I place it, the bubble is at the center. When I swivel to the back, there are tons of cables over here. And what are all these cables for? Which is meant for your front I/O. Okay, let me just push this down. Now all these cables which belongs to the back where you do your cable management and such, right? These connectors are meant for you to connect to your motherboard. Starting off with the power button, which is this, which says front panel. This is to connect to your motherboard in order for you to power on your system. Next will be the LED switch, which is this. Now by default, this LED switch is connected to the controller at the back, which I will show you. You can unplug this and to plug this to your motherboard reset switch. So this will become a reset switch. Unless you want it to control as your ARGB, right, connect this to the controller. So you can either connect to the controller or connect to your motherboard. When you connect to your motherboard, it will be a reset switch. Okay, when you connect to the controller, this will be the LED to control all your ARGB on the hub itself. Next, you have the combo microphone and headphone jack, which is this. You will need to plug this HD audio to your motherboard, followed by the two USB type A port, which is this. Again, connect this to your motherboard. And last but not least, the type C port. This is the other side where you expose all the cables where you do your cable management. Basically, the channeling is pretty straightforward. At the top left hand corner, this is where you mount your PSU, which I will show you how to do that. Then over at this side, this is where you manage your modular cable and to push through so that you can plug your 24-pin cables to the motherboard. And same goes to your GPU cables and such. And all this, right, in fact, are gaps at the bottom. As you can see, this is about 30mm. So you have a lot of space for you to tuck your cables. And best part is that there are lots of cable tie points. And this, as I mentioned, this is for your GPU support anti-sag bracket for you to tighten it. Now, for this cover over here, right, when you do your cable management, unscrew this to remove off the cover. So when you swivel this open, right, it will expose the motherboard area at the back. And you can see there are tons of cable points. So you can tie down your cables neatly. And what is this for? It's to cover up all your cable mess that you've done. If let's say your cable management is not tidy, so you can do that. Now for this cover, right, you can remove off. Okay, in fact it's attached with this hose over here. Okay, back to here. So you can just tuck it in. Due to my angle, that's the reason. See? So you can just cover. And what are all these holes for? Now, let you have a closer look. As you can see, they are marked as H and S. What are they for? Well, basically, this section over here, which marked H. Okay, this is for your 3¼ hard disk. So there are total of 2 you can mount, one at the top, one at the bottom. Or you can choose to mount 2 2.5-inch SSD with stated S over here. There are 4 holes. So same goes to the bottom. But when you mount it, don't mount it this side. Mount it inside so that all your cables, right, will be hidden inside. So when you place this back, all your hard disks will be inside. See? Inside and hidden. And your cables should be routing through here to your motherboard. Like your SATA cables, your SATA data cable and your SATA power cables which connect to the PSU. Now at the top, you have this controller, which I'll show you later how many ports there are and such. Now I'm just going to take you to the PSU and to show you how this is being mounted. Before I show you how to mount the PSU at this location, do take note, there is a limit on the length itself. Make sure that this does not exceed 170. If it exceed, right, probably around 200, then you're going to have problems mounting your modular cables to your PSU and to do the cable management. So best is at 170. Now this PSU is in fact the Montech Century 2, which has a length of 160. There are more space for you to feather with. And also reason why you don't exceed 170 is because of the pass-through. If it's too long, right, your pass-through hole, right, will be very small. So very hard for you to route your 24-pin cables and your GPU cables. So take note on this. Now in order for you to mount this PSU, there is a strap. See this black metal frame? You have to remove this. And for you to remove it, okay, let me just push up and to show you. There are 2 thumb screws over here. See? Remove these 2 thumb screws. Now these are not captive, so do be careful not to lose them. Once you've done this, next is to pull the whole strap out. As you can see, there are 4 notches over here. So this is in tightened position. So push it down, which I'm going to do it right now. Okay, you take a bit of fiddling. Alright, it's out. So when you do this, right, this is at release position. Okay, when you push up, it's tightened. So you can just remove the whole strap out. As you can see, right, I've remounted my PSU. Now do take note, make sure that the ventilator area, right, is facing you and not the other side. If it's the other side, right, there are no holes for it to pull cool air to cool down your PSU. So make sure you do it this way. Once you have mounted, just align this 4 point back to the 4 holes. Okay, once in line, push it up. So this is in lock position. Once done, fasten the 2 thumb screw to secure the PSU strap in place. Okay, it's really hard to do it this way. I'll just do it this way then. Now once you have done this, the final step that you need to do, turn on your power switch. Okay, if it's at the side, it's alright. But this, right, since the AC connector is right above the switch, I'll turn it on first. Then plug the AC connector. Then tuck this nicely. Once you've done this, right, you can close the case. In the event if you forget to turn on, not to worry, since this is removable at the top, just remove. And you can just remove this and to turn on your switch. It's pretty straightforward. Now I've tested numerous of power supply. You can do it this way, you can do it this way, you can do it this way, not a problem. There won't be any obstacle. So it's pretty safe that majority of the power supply that is having a limit of a length of 170, right, you can mount to this case, not a problem. This is the fan controller, or known as the fan or ARGB hub, which is right beside the PSU, and this is at the top. Now in order to use this controller, there are cables that you need to connect. Starting on my right, you have this SATA connector. This is whereby you connect your SATA connector to your PSU and then connect to this connector. So that will supply power to your hub. Without this, right, your controller will not work. Okay, so make sure you connect this to the power source to draw power. Followed by, on my left, you have 2 more cables, which this is for the 4-pin PWM, and this is the ARGB 3-pin 5V connector. Make sure you plug this 4-pin PWM fan connector to your motherboard to control the fans. Oh, by the way, there are a total of 6 ports, be it for the fans or for the ARGB effect at the bottom. Now as for this 3-pin 5V ARGB, if you intend to make use of the front LED switch, you can don't plug this to your motherboard. Unless you want to control your ARGB effect using this, using your motherboard, right? Then connect this to your motherboard. Then on the front switch where you have the LED switch, you will need to press a sequence to bypass the controller. Then you will take signal of your motherboard. Now, again, if you do not want to make use of your motherboard to control the ARGB effect, right, you can don't connect this. Now, speaking of which, right, earlier on I mentioned to you, for the front connector where it says LED, you can either make use of this to become a reset switch or the ARGB button. Now, if you want to make use of this to control the ARGB, right, you will need to connect this to the controller, which over here, there's this 2-pin. Okay, once you connect this, right, you'll be able to make use of the front IO switch. System is up and running in this case, and I'll be using the 9950X 3D processor, inclusive of the motherboard, which is the ProArt from ASUS, which is the X870E Creator Wi-Fi. And as for the RAMs, using the 48GB kit from Bywin, and the cache latency is CL28 with a voltage of 1.4 and a JDAC profile of 5600, but I've enabled Expo profile to run on 6000, and it's on 1:1 ratio. And as for the tweak in UEFI, these are the things that I've done. On the SoC voltage, I've set to 1.15 volt, and the PPT, TDC, and EDC, which is the PBO limits, these are by default. And for the curve optimizer, I have the first stack as -15 and the second stack as -20. Now for curve shaper, I've only done on the 3 frequency, which is the mid frequency, high frequency, and max frequency. And all this frequency each have 3 temperature, which is the low, mid, and high. For mid frequency, I've set it to -15 on all temperature. For high frequency, I've set it to -10, and for max frequency, I've set to -5. Now just to verify, okay, let me just, this is the Ryzen Master. As you can see, the PPT, TDC, and EDC, all these are by default. I've not done anything. The only thing as mentioned on my curve optimizer, see, the first 8 stack is -15 and the last 8 stack is -20. And sad to say that I can't show you the curve shaper over here, but it's already done. Now I'm just going to run this test for 10 minutes, and in fact I've tested this again and again, about 30 minutes the stress test and 10 minutes the throttle test and such. It is very consistent on the temperature. I just want to show you live what is actually going on. Alright, so right now I'm just going to run this. As you can see, you can look at the temperature of overall, inclusive of the AIO pump. Okay, I'm using the I'm using the Montech Light Flow, which has the RPM on the pump is 3100, and for the radiator fans, right, it will pump max to 2000, and for the bottom fans, which is the case fans, the max will go is up to 1.6k RPM. Same goes to the rear fan. Then you can monitor all this, inclusive of the GPU. Oh, forgot to mention that for GPU, right, I'm making use of the RTX 4080 Super Tough. So right now I'm just going to run this for 10 minutes and I'll talk about the result in a short while. But before I do so, let me just pull out this, and here we go. The last 1 minute 30 seconds, first thing I noticed is actually on the chart itself, whereby this core clock, which I taken from here, which is all the average of all the cores, as you can see, it's very consistent. The dips are far away, which tells me that the cooling is pretty good in this case. And the next thing is that it does hover at 5 gig or 5.1 gig, and it does have a max boost of 5.7. And looking at the thermal, right, it's hovering around 80 to 82 degrees Celsius, which is consistent. And the clock speed, as mentioned, is very consistent. And all this check out pretty well. The light flow AIO, which I told you, the pump max is actually 3200. So it's around there, plus minus 10%, which is good. The red fans running at 2K. And for the AX and the RX Pro, which the bottom fans are the RX 120 Pro and the rear fan is AX 120 Pro, and all this check out pretty well. And looking at the thermal on the motherboard is doing well. The VRM, yes, about 70 to 74 degrees Celsius is still alright. Now for my RAMs, yep, 47 to 44 degrees Celsius. My M.2 is 46. Now all this are inside a case where my room temperature is 30 to 31 degrees Celsius, so it's considered pretty good. And for the GPU, right, it's been hovering around 61 degrees Celsius, and for the hotspot on all the VRAMs and such, right, it's hovering around 72 degrees Celsius, and it can hold on this clock speed. So overall, I would say that it's pretty well, and the score is at 43K. Now, if I were to run default without PBO2 and such, right, the 9950X3D will be at around 39K. So it is very consistent and it does perform. My thoughts about the King 45 Pro, well, it's a straight answer. This is an amazing case. A lot of things done correctly, only some minor flaws here and there. First of all, the build quality is superb. And I like the fact that though this is a fish tank style of case where you have dual chamber, but it's of a small footprint, even though it's actually a mid tower, because it's so slim and it fits nicely to the desk. Now, tons of space to work with. As you can see, it's quite open. Probably I would suggest that Montech should come out with their own LCD screen, which will fill up the gap. So depending on whether you want to do push-pull configuration on the radiator, or should I say the Liquid AIO, so that there are various sizes that you can choose to mount a LCD panel, just to show the stats. Now, as I mentioned, yes, you can do push-pull configuration, be it whether 360 or 280. As I shown you, right, the motherboard placement is seated right in, so there won't be any blockage at all. Plenty of space, not a problem. And as I test the thermal, right, it does check out well too. Now I'm running off a 9950X3D, and yet it can hover at a sustained temperature of 82 degrees Celsius. And do note that my room temperature is 30 degrees Celsius. And at idle, as you can see, this is 48 degrees Celsius, which is very good. And excellent thermal on my graphic card. Based on the fact that this fans here, right, superb. The step up game on the AX 120 and the RX 120 Pro, these are the reverse blade and this is the normal blade. This fan run extremely quiet, even I run at full speed, and I can feel that there are tons of air gushing out. Well done. Now, there are some stuff that I really like about this case, whereby it has a very big, tinted glass that we can expose all the component. It's very clean, very sleek, and best part is that this underskirt here, right, is very slim. And when I turn off the lights, right, you can see that the ARGB from the blade is beaming the underskirt. It's just like a vehicle, okay, hovering with the lightings at the bottom. Nicely done. Now the mechanism of it, right, everything is Toolless, well done. And the uniformity on the grills, as in like the holes, okay, I'm talking about this, all is in square. See, even the back is in square. Same goes to the side panel. As when I built the case itself, right, I feel so excited. That's why I did up a theme for it. As in like, okay, it's not fully complete. I still need to choose the colors, but overall, just to show you guys that it's possible for you to mount a LCD panel. It's very spacious. I have no complaint about this. Now, best part is that the back with this locking mechanism. It acts as a second security, and I've shown you that my GPU, right, is not sagging at all, based on the fact that the support GPU anti-sag bracket, right, works very well. Now the routing area is pretty good too, as in like going through your 24-pin cables and your 12-volt high power cable, not an issue, but there is some tick. Now let me just push you to the back. This is the whole cable management. Okay, let me just put this up, and as I unlock this, right, take a look. It's very clean. See, all my cables, right, flat cables. Okay, take note, flat cables on the PSU, I can just tuck it in, not a problem, and there are plenty of space over here. And this controller is working very well, which I'll show you later. Now, something to take note, as I mentioned that the PSU not to exceed 170. In fact, the ideal length, it should be 160. And if you are using PSU to mount in this case, right, I would advise you to go with flat cables. As I tried with this another Montech PSU, which the cables are sleeves. Okay, if you are using this, right, I have a hard time to tuck the cables nicely, and it's protruding all the way over here, and this will block the ventilation, believe it or not. Okay, which is over here. So if you have this space occupied with cables and such, right, the ventilating areas, you know, especially from the bottom fans when it pushes to the GPU. Now the GPU have those so-called heatsink, right? It will just push towards the motherboard. So having to block this area, right, there are no breather of air, and the only intake is actually at the bottom, so that will increase the thermal results. So I'll advise, if you want to build in this case, right, make sure you use flat cables instead of sleeve cables. So that's my advice to you guys, as you have to clear this out, which is this area, so that when your GPU is pushing all the hot air, right, at least it dissipates off from the side. And I also note that if you're not placing any hard disk or such, right, you can just remove this cage. See? And it gives more ventilated air. It's all up to you. But living in a hot and humid country, right, it's best to have less, metal coverage and such. By the way, I don't even need this cover. Take a look. Okay, I can do a much more better job on cable management, but with this short wavelength that I done, right, see, it's very nice. It's very tidy. So this is one point. Now the second point that I don't like about this case is the mesh filter. See, I have to leave out one side before I can take out the filter, and this might topple your case. So Montech, probably you can actually do something about this. Having it, slanted and to pull it out is better than to leave out the case and to place this in. Now, all the ventilator areas check out very well. The top and the bottom, as I show you, is a full cutout instead of having the mesh honeycomb and such. So, well done. Now, something to add on, as I mentioned to you, right, the ARGB effect, right, you can just toggle using this switch over here. As the controller, the LED connector is connected to this switch. So when I press it, right, see, it will just cycle through the colors. Nicely done. And the response is very fast. Okay, you don't have to worry. The only thing that you can't control is probably your RAMs if you have ARGB and your graphic card. So those are the ones that you will need to control with your motherboard. Now besides this, right, I have nothing much bad to talk about. This is pretty nice to work with. As mentioned to you, right, when I work with it, the more I work with it, the more I wanted to build. Now aside from this, right, I noticed also the accessory package. Now I'm not gone through this with you guys. It comes with a manual, that is sealed in a Ziploc bag. And this box, as usual, from Montech, but they have done some touch to it. Take a look. These are not stick on, these are engraved on it. The attention on details. And even at the underneath side, right, where you have this, okay, probably I'll just take this out. See, cable tie, accessory B, accessory A and such. These are carved onto the box itself. Well done. And as mentioned, right, these fans are fantastic. It's super quiet, where you can purchase. You know, I sound like a salesman, but it's just that I feel that, you know, they are very nicely, you know, themed, and it looks very pleasant. That's what I can say. If you guys want your, you know, the King 45 to shine, right, I would advise you to purchase the Pro version, because this fans has very strong airflow. I hope everyone have enjoyed what I've shared with you, and if you ask me this question, is this case a recommendation, I would say yes, but with careful thought on what kind of PSU that you use. As this case, right, the only intake is coming from the bottom fans, so it's best that not to cloud the management area. Have it as empty as possible, especially this area over here, whereby your GPU, right, is pushing the hot air out. So this will help to dissipate heat off from the case itself. Now with this said, I'd like to thank Montech to have provided this case for me to share with everyone. And if you are new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you like my content, do remember to subscribe and to click on the notification bell button. Now, if you like this content, do me a favor, click on the like button. Take care, goodbye, see ya.